How's it going, guys? Michael here. In this video, we'll be recreating the main synth sounds found in Save Your Tears by The Weeknd. All these sounds are super simple yet super effective, proving that you don't need complex patches to write an absolute hit song. Let's get into it. Let's start by recreating the lead synth. First select Analog, then Juno, and select Wavetable position 2. This will remove a little bit of the harshness compared to the default wave. Now increase the unison to 2 and bring down the detune to 0.02. This will create a nice stereo wide sound. Now to set up the envelope. Increase the release time to around 230 milliseconds so that the sound will slowly fade out. Now drag envelope 2 onto the cutoff knob and make sure it's in unidirectional mode by holding down Alt and Shift and clicking. Next, turn on the filter and include the noise oscillator. Turn the cutoff to 1200 Hz. Set the resonance to 0 and lastly increase the modulation amount to 23. Now under envelope 2, set the decay to 2.8 seconds. Sustain to 0 and release to 230 milliseconds. This will cause the filter to slowly close the longer the note is held, giving it some nice movement. Last thing on the oscillator tab is turn on the noise oscillator and select Analog followed by Bright White and set the level to -38 decibels. This will add some high-end energy to the sound as well as giving it more of an analog feel. Now jump over to the Effects tab. Turn on Distortion and drag it to the top. Increase the drive to 32% and set the mix knob to 50%. This will add some extra body and warmth to the sound. Next, turn on the delay and drag it below the distortion. Create a bandpass EQ by dragging down towards the center. Set the frequency to around 750 Hz to give us a more mellow delay sound. And set the mix knob to 44%. Turn on the reverb and drag it below the delay. Turn up the decay to 7.2 seconds to give it a longer tail. Low cut to 44%. And high cut to 40% to clean up the frequencies, and mix knob to 56%. Turn on the chorus and drag it below the reverb. Set the rate to 0.06, delay 1 to 0, depth to 10 milliseconds, feed to 10%, low pass filter to 100% and mix knob to 50%. This will give us a nice modulated reverb sound with lots of movement and life. Lastly, for the effect, boost the high frequencies by turning on the EQ and dragging it below the chorus. Set the frequency to 940 Hz, Q to 0 and gain to +5 decibels. Now to finish off the sound, head back to the oscillator tab and drag LFO 1 onto the fine-tune control of oscillator A and bring down the modulation amount to 5. Now select LFO 2 and change the rate to 1/8 note. Then drag it onto the same fine-tune control and set its modulation amount to 10. This will add a flutter and wow effect to the sound, giving it a more analog feel. Now let's move on to the Chord Synth sound. Start with the new initialized version of Serum. Set the unison of oscillator A to 2 and bring down the detune to 0.04. This will give us a wide sound to start with. Turn up the release on envelope 1 to 120 milliseconds to give it a tail. Then drag envelope 2 onto the cutoff knob. Turn on the filter and change the filter type to MG Low 24 and turn on key tracking so that the filter will open up more the higher the notes that we play. Now set the cutoff frequency to 300 Hz, the modulation amount to 32 and the resonance to 24%. Next, dial in envelope 2 by turning up the attack to 30 milliseconds, decay to 760 milliseconds, sustain to 0 and release to 100 milliseconds. Also, drag down slightly on this point to give the sound a faster initial decay. Now head over to the Effects tab, and for this one it's super simple. Start by turning on the distortion and drag it to the top. Change the distortion type to tape saturation. Set the EQ to post and drag down to around 3000 Hz. Turn up the drive to around 63% and the mix down to 38%. This will fatten up the sound. Now turn on the chorus and drag it below the distortion. Set the rate to 0.03, delay 1 to 0, depth down slightly to 20 milliseconds, feed up slightly to 22%, change the filter type to high pass and drag it down to 230 Hz to clean up the sound, and mix knob to 100%. Last thing to do is turn on reverb and drag it below the chorus. Decrease the size to 16% for a faster reverb attack, decay to 0 for a faster decay, low cut and high cut to 50% to clean up the reverb, spin to 2% for a slow modulation and spin depth to 90% for a more intense effect, and mix knob to 38%. For the final sound, we will recreate the very high lead sound. Start with an initialized version of Serum. Turn up the unison to 4 and bring down the detune to 0.09. Turn on the noise oscillator and select analog, then bright white, and turn down the level to -30 decibels. Under envelope 1, turn the release up to 1 second. Now jump over to the effects tab. Turn on the reverb and drag it to the top. Increase the decay to 6 seconds. Low cut and high cut to 40%, and mix knob to 67% to drown out the sound in reverb. Now to add some more movement. Turn on the chorus and drag it below the reverb. Set the rate to 0.06, delay 1 to 0 and depth down to 10 milliseconds. Feed to 10% and low pass filter to 3600 Hz. Lastly, to tame some of the highs, turn on the EQ and drag it below the chorus. Set the frequency to 2400 Hz. Q to 0 and gain to -8 decibels. And we're done. As a quick note for those who are interested, I'll go through how I created the backing track. For the real bass sound, I used the Scarby Rickenbacker bass on the bridge pure DI setting. Then I added Neutron Transient Shaper to add attack to the sound, followed by FabFilter's Q3 to remove some of the lows. For the acoustic guitar, I used the Strummed Acoustic 2 from Native Instruments on the Tennessee A strum pattern with the authentic doubled preset. The only thing I did was boost the highs with Q3. For the drum sounds, I used XO from Excellent Audio and sorted through one of my vintage drum sounds folders to create this kit. For the kick, I used FabFilter Satin to add some extra harmonics and soften the sound, followed by Q3 to add some more mid-frequencies. On the snare, I used Satin again, but this time with the tape clean setting. Then Q3 to boost the highs, followed by Valhalla Room with a short decay time, and then followed by FabFilter's Gate plugin to create a true 80s inspired snare sound. Lastly, I wanted to let you know that I have created a preset pack for Serum containing 20 high quality presets. The pack has just been released on my website makesoundshop.com, and I've included an audio demo of every single preset, so that way you'll know exactly what you're getting. The pack will be on sale for a limited time, so to avoid missing out on this absolute steal of a deal, head over to makesoundshop.com and be sure to use discount code IAMSUB for an additional 50% off at checkout. As always, you can find a link to the presets in the description below, and if you enjoyed watching, please consider liking and subscribing to support the channel. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye!